Okay, so here we are. This is do now for today. You'll have 5 minutes as before. I want you to write down all the answers, please. With some working out, I want you to have a go at everything. There's no excuse for not having a go, even if you get it wrong. You've got 5 minutes, and the clock starts now. sorry, I wasn't watching the clock there. Let's get rid of the clock to give us a bit more space. Right, so we want something to be written as the product of its prime factors. So we're going to need some prime factors. And product means times. They use that in America a lot to mean times. Now, if you want to do product of prime factors, that means a prime factor tree. So split your number into two, just two numbers that multiply together to make the number above. So it could be 15 times 10. Doesn't matter what order you do this in, as long as each time each pair of numbers multiplies to make the one above. Now, if either of these is prime, you circle it. Neither of these is prime, so I split it again. That could be 3 times 5. Now, both of those are prime numbers, actually, so I'm going to circle both. And those branches are now finished. I just need to allow the cat to get on the table, otherwise the dog will go absolutely mad. Right, there we go, done. Next, so 10, we need to split that into 2. So that could be 2 times 5. And actually both of those are prime as well. Now, write it as a product of its prime factors. So you take your number, and I want it to equal. We're going to take each of these numbers and multiply them together. 2 times 3 times 5 times 5. And that's one way of writing the answer. But actually, we can do that a little bit neater, as we know, because we've got 2 5s there. So it could be written as 2 times 3 times 5 squared. And I'd always recommend writing both of those out. Write longhand and then neaten it up if you can. Okay, let's go back to blue. Right, 210 as a product of its prime factors. Again, so we do the same thing again. 210. Split it into 2, so that could be 21 times by 10. That could be 3 times 7. Both of those are prime. 2 is prime. 2 times 5, we're going to do that. And 5 is prime as well. So I've got 3, 7, 2, and 5. Write it as a product of its prime factors. So 210 times by, always start with the smallest. 2 times 3 times 5 times by 7. Okay, so there's the first 2 done. Products of prime factors. Now, next one, use a Venn diagram to calculate the HCF and LCM of those 2 numbers. The 2 numbers that we actually found in part 1 and part 2. So one circle, that's Murphy. He really, really likes Venn diagrams. That's why he's having a little bark. 150. Right, so that circle represents all the prime factors for 150. That one represents it for 210. And the bit in the middle is what they share. So look at your numbers. What do they share? They share a 2. So put that in the middle. They share a 3. So that goes in the middle. And they share 5. And that's a 5 as well. So that goes in the middle. Okay, so that's all the ones they share. They don't share anything else, but anything that's left over for 210 goes over here. Well, that's the 7. And the 5 is left over from the 150. The other 5's already there, but we needed the second 5. Now, that's the Venn diagram. So that gets you probably at least a mark, maybe 2. HCF then, the highest common factor. Now that is made from multiplying together. Let's go for black. Multiplying together the stuff that's in the center there. The HCF, the highest common factor. You take those numbers that they share and multiply together. So 2 times 3 times 5, or 2 times 3 is 6, times it by 5. The highest common factor is 30. That's the biggest number that divides both 210 and 150. But what about the lowest common multiple? Well, that's all of the numbers multiplied together. Obviously, the overlap ones you're only going to use once, even though they come from both numbers. So 2 times 3 times 5. And then we've got another 5 on the left-hand side and another 7 on the right-hand side. Now, I must admit, at that point, I'm going to turn to my calculator so it makes it quicker. 2 times 3 times 5 times 5 times 7 is 1,050. So that is the lowest common multiple of them. If you wrote out the times tables of 150 and the times table of 210, the first number that they share that's in both is 1,050. Okay. Lastly, what number has the prime factor decomposition of this? So what number equals that? Well, all you have to do is do that sum. you do 2 times by 5 times by 7 squared, or 7 times 7, times by 11. Computer's being a bit slow. 2 times 5 times 7 squared times by 11, and that tells you what the original number was, and it was 5390. Yeah, 5,390. All right. Okay, well done. Off to the main task then.